You ever been on one of those car rides where you got some kid in the back seat like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" Well, I'm driving with my son to the Browns at Colts on Sunday, and he's like, "Are we in Indiana yet? Are we I don't see any signs. Are we in Indiana?" And I said to him, "You'll know when we get to Indiana. You'll know." And then maybe a minute later, there I saw it in all its whole glory, the Indiana state flower. No, ladies and gentlemen, I am not talking about the peony. I'm talking about the true state flower for the state of Indiana, and that is the orange barrel. What the elf is that?
You're listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast, an iconoclastic look at the latest Cleveland Browns news. The What the Elf Was That podcast is part of the Fanatical Elves podcast network, a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Here's your host, Joel Cade.
Now, I got to give a shout out to people I know from Indiana, and one of my friends in particular up in Indiana, northern part of Indiana, Notre Dame area. You know, I learned from this person that the true state flower of Indiana is the orange barrel. And if you're from Indiana, and you guys may have known I've been in Indiana for a while and been around that area, and the orange barrel is ubiquitous across the state, and it is truly is the state flower of Indiana. So I knew having lived in Indiana and having a lot of connections to the state, particularly the northern part of the state. You're not in Indiana until you see the orange barrel, the true state flower. So shout out to my friend up north. Thank you for cluing me in on that one. Hey, so look, did you guys see that thing from Myles Garrett? Oh my God, like the dude like was in a stance, then the ball is snapped and he jumps over two players who, of course, obviously are just trying to get low. So they're not standing up, they're just going low. They're submarining to an extent. Jumps over them and blocks the field goal. If that ain't the most water boy-esque looking thing that I have ever seen, I don't know what is. I mean, like literally there was a scene in The Water Boy where he steps on a player, then jumps up and blocks a field goal. Myles Garrett doesn't even need to step on a player. He just jumps over these people and blocks a field goal. It was like the most water boy thing I've ever seen in an NFL game. Thus today, if you're watching live, I have my water boy number 9 Bobby Boucher jersey on, which is now affectionately known as the Myles Garrett jersey, because I have never ever in my life seen something that freaky. And even the movie The Water Boy, right? Some fictional thing knows that something like that would never happen. That's why they had him do it, to make it look like it was something completely outrageous that would never happen in life. And then Myles Garrett goes out and makes that crap happen in real life. That's how much of a freak athlete Myles Garrett is. So it's about 4 minutes in. I'm Joel at the left guard. Welcome to What the Elf Was That? And we're currently asking that question about Myles Garrett. Is this a human being? Is this Superman? Is this what the ancient Greeks called the Anunnaki? I mean, of course, if you watch that show, they're all aliens, but maybe Myles Garrett's an alien. I don't know, man. That's something else. So some of you guys are out there on Twitter, and I try not to pay attention to Twitter because it's a lot of drama, and I'm very anti-drama. But, when you do a podcast, you have to respond to this stuff. People are out there asking for a nickname for this defense. And although they gave up 38 points, offense helped out a lot with that. I still think after watching that field goal block, the obvious answer is out there. The Browns defense are the mud dogs, and Myles Garrett is the freaking water boy. He's an absolute freak of nature. So from now on, they're the mud dogs. This crazy defense. Myles Garrett getting 2 strip sacks and a forced fumble and a blocked field goal and all kinds of crap. Unreal. Unfreaking real what this guy does on the football field. All right, let's get into that game, by the way. I was at the game. I was pretty excited about that. So I guess I'm going to go through another side note. I've been to a lot of NFL stadiums, okay? Been to Chicago, been to Green Bay, been to Cleveland, been to Cincinnati, been to Indianapolis, been to a bunch of other places. Anyway, I can't even list them all. Anyway, I would have to shout out to the Indianapolis Colts fans. These have possibly have to be some of the nicest fans you will ever come across. It was just a great experience talking to people. They had the antagonism. You don't have the marijuana smell lining the streets like you have in Baltimore. You don't have people trying to start fights like you do in Baltimore. I mean, I hate Baltimore for a reason, but they deserve it. I mean, like the place is like a crap hole and their fans are like just jerks. But hey, Indianapolis Colts fans are pretty chill. They're pretty nice. They'll just sit and welcome you along. I got in somebody's group picture of their tailgate, even though I was just sitting there drinking a beer, looking for a safe place to drink a beer in public. And, there you go. And hanging out with them for a while. So shout out to that group out there that would let us hang out and shoot the crap about Anthony Richardson and their situation there in Indianapolis. So nice group of fans. If you guys ever get a chance to go to a Colts game, you should do that. It really is a fun experience. And also I want to give kudos to the people who run the in-stadium experience. Cleveland could learn a thing or two. I mean, the circle of life where people are holding up the little babies with Colts stuffs on, that was pretty funny to watch. And that's not just all the funny stuff. They had some good stuff there for entertainment between timeouts. The Browns should hire that guy from Michigan that goes and steals signs and have him go to all the NFL stadiums and just start like stealing the stuff they do and put it into the Browns experience, because it actually was kind of a fun environment to be. Minus one thing. Okay. If you ever go to a Colts game, you need to watch out for security. Okay. These people are some real jerks. Like, they just are. So just be careful. I mean, you're standing in a common area by a table and they're trying to get you to go move away. Like, that's what the table's for, to stand there and watch the game. Why are you trying to make me leave? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So Indianapolis, you got to fix your security problem. But other than that, great experience. Great experience. And what made it a fantastic experience was watching the Browns offense drive all the way down the field and score on that last touchdown drive and win the game. Makes you wonder what the elf is Stefanski thinking by like passing it 2 or 3 times, setting up a 4th and 1, and then you run the ball in. I don't know what you're just trying to run time off the clock. I don't understand Stefanski out thinking himself, it's 4th and 1. Just give the ball to Marshawn Lynch and win the Super Bowl. Let's just move on with life. Don't overthink this, Pete Carroll. Don't do this. Just give him the ball. Make it happen. I digress. Deep breath. So the Colts game, fantastic game. Had a great time. The son and I were there. We were watching the stuff. It was tremendous. Got to watch Myles Garrett live hurdle people. I mean, it was a great experience. Got to see some orange barrels. Not sure you can top that experience. So, hey, if you get a chance to go to Indianapolis, do that. Now, let's talk about the actual game. The Browns, one, I think the defense is still really good, but I think they're going to have to plug some holes. Colts may have figured out a way to exploit that defense, which is just basically running the ball up the middle. So the defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, is going to have to figure out schematically, is it a personnel issue? Is it a schematic issue? What's the issue going on here? Was it just a bad game? How do you fix it? I would expect next week at Seattle for them not to be able to run the ball as well as the Colts did. I expect there to be some changes, not necessarily some changes, but some revisions of how things roll up front. Okay. Deshaun Watson. Let's just get right down to Deshaun Watson and the debacle that was Deshaun Watson at that football game. So I was in the crowd watching Deshaun Watson, and he comes back, drops back, gets ready to throw the ball, rolls out to the right, throws the ball, and this ball was like in suspended animation. I mean, it was like slow motion ball in the air. That ball was in the air long enough to call up Uber Eats, order some food, have it delivered, eat that food, and still have plenty of time to be in the air to get to the wide receiver. That's how slow that ball was. Deshaun Watson is in no position to be playing quarterback right now. Just not. If his arm is that weak, you cannot put him out there, and you literally have a better chance of winning with PJ Walker. And we have all seen that disaster and that crap show go down for 2 weeks. But the Browns have won those 2 weeks, so you can't say too much about the situation. But until he gets better, there's no reason to play him. And you've got 2 NFC West games coming up. You've got the Seahawks in Seattle, then you've got the Cardinals at home. There is no reason to try to rush him back right now because those NFC games are the very last games in the tiebreakers. The very, very last games in the tiebreakers. It's the last thing you need to worry about. One more comment on the game besides Deshaun Watson. Let's talk about Jerome Ford. When Jerome Ford ever figures out how to run the ball through a hole, he is going to be tremendous. But right now, he has yet to figure out where a hole is in the NFL. And I thought about that. I've watched this on tape, but then you see it live and you're just like, this guy, I don't know. Like, does he need glasses? Like, does he just need to be shown, like, when there is room, you run up in it? But then you put Kareem Hunt in the game, and Kareem Hunt knows the deal. You see a little sliver of spot, man, you dart in there. Even if you have to dive in for 3 yards, you get those yards. You know, Ford was supposed to take this to the sideline. I've seen him outrun blocks. I mean, it just what the. And now he's got a high ankle sprain, a low grade high ankle sprain, will be out 2 weeks. So now the running game is going to be what? Pierre Strong? But Pierre Strong really didn't look that bad compared to like some of the other hole missing stuff that I saw. But when Jerome Ford hits the hole, he's fast, he's violent, he gets yards. You got to get him up in the hole. Man. And the Browns are going to need that running game in the next 2 weeks versus the Cardinals and the Seahawks. The Seahawks are, and we'll get to the Seahawks after the break, but you know, the Browns have got to figure some stuff out here when it comes to their offense. Mainly the quarterback situation, because PJ Walker is not a long-term solution, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he's not going to win you any games. So, yeah. All right, hey, we get back from the break, we will talk more about the quarterback position. We'll get into the Seahawks, and we have Borg news. That's right, the Borg are in the news. So hang on after the break, and we will get to all that. Hang on. All right, and we're back. Let's get back to the quarterback situation. So I have perused Twitter. I'm not proud to say that I perused Twitter, but I have perused Twitter. And I saw a lot of discussion about how the Browns should trade for Jacoby Brissett. First of all, I don't even know who Jacoby Brissett plays for. Let's see if we can find out who he plays for. Second of all, is why would that team want to trade him? Okay, Jacoby Brissett plays for the Washington Commanders. They got themselves their own 5th round quarterback that's garbage that he'll be playing for pretty soon anyway if they were serious. Why would you give up draft capital for Jacoby Brissett? Well, you would do that if you think that this is your chance to win. But is Jacoby Brissett going to win you the Super Bowl? If he was going to do that, we'd have done that last year. Okay. Instead, last year we were counting down the weeks to get Deshaun Watson back. And that's all we're going to do at this point. We're just going to count down the weeks to get Deshaun Watson back. And at this point, you have 2 weeks coming into 2 NFC West games. Don't panic. Don't panic. let's just ride it out. You have your quarterback in Deshaun Watson. I was at that Tennessee game. This man is for real. He knows what he's doing. You put him back there in a single back formation or a shotgun formation with no backs back there. He is like at home. He is the man. Once his arm is fine, we will be fine. I still say we play the long game. Just wait it out. The solution will present itself and we will be okay. That and Myles Garrett getting 2 strip sacks a game and blocking a 60-yard field goal. That too. Mud Dogs defense coming through for us. So just chill out for a second on Deshaun Watson, okay? I mean, I think we should just ride it out. I mean, if there's a viable option on a practice squad that you like, that doesn't cost you anything. But I wouldn't be giving up picks to somebody for their quarterback when they know you need the quarterback. That is going to be highway robbery and not in a good way. All right, moving on from Watson. Let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks for a second. So this upcoming week, 4:25 game, I believe. It's the 4 o'clock. So you got to like watch all the 1 o'clock games and sit around like twiddling your thumbs waiting for the 4 o'clock to show up. And Browns fans, you know what I'm talking about. So once that 4 o'clock game arrives, what do we expect? Well, the Browns haven't had the best record in Seattle. So that might be going against the Browns to start with. But what should the game plan be? Well, first of all, if you still got PJ Walker, you're still going to run the ball, which means there's probably going to have to be something happening at running back this week before the game shows up. You cannot go into a game just with Pierre Strong only. So the Browns need to start scouring the free agent market, looking at practice squads, figuring out who can do what, and try to bring in somebody. If they're lucky, they can find somebody who knows the system, somebody who's played with Deshaun Watson before, or at least in that mode of gameplay, and might be running back by committee. But you got to have the running game going because PJ Walker will not win you that game with his arm. Now, the good thing for the Browns is that the Seahawks have been kind of struggling, and Geno Smith hasn't exactly been the barn burner he was last year. Shocker, right? Shocker, PJ. Shocker that my God, his name's slipping my head. Geno Smith isn't shocker that Geno Smith has reverted back to form to what he always was. Nobody saw that coming. But he had a good year and good for him, and he got paid taking care of his family. But now he's going to help the Browns win because there ain't nobody on that team. No, I'm just kidding. The Seahawks do have a pretty good team. They got a pretty good defense. So it's going to be another one of those games which defense can beat up on the other offense the best, or which defense has the best chance to shut down the other team's offense. And it's not looking good for the Browns, but that Colts game, I mean, PJ Walker came through when he needed it. So you never know what's going to happen any given Sunday. All right, guys, let's transition to a better topic. Let's talk about one of my favorite topics that I love to talk about almost nonstop. You ready for this?
We are the Borg. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to talk about the Borg. And in case you don't listen to my podcast regularly, first of all, shame on you for not listening to my podcast regularly. But second of all, welcome to the show. Hey, check it out. Stick around. So the Borg is what I call the NFL owners because they act as a collective for the good of the collective. And everything must submit to the collective. And we see this once again with one of the multiple lawsuits, but this one isn't even a lawsuit. I've been detailing for you over this past year. Let's talk about the Tom Brady purchase of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I think it was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, we discussed this, where Tom Brady was looking to purchase 10% of the Las Vegas Raiders for $175 million. And if you valued the team out, that would just mean that the Raiders are worth $1.75 billion. Mind you, the Washington Commanders had just sold for $6 billion, 6.6, I believe, $6.6 billion. So the NFL owners were going to meet to approve the sale of 10% of the Raiders to Tom Brady, which is obviously being sold at a discount price, which raised the very fascinating question about the NFL. And give me a second. Is how does the NFL operate? Are these teams independently owned and therefore can be sold at whatever price they want to sell them at so that the owners can sell their team for $1 should they so choose? Or is the NFL set up like McDonald's, where McDonald's is the brand, the NFL is the brand, and the McDonald's has a whole bunch of satellite offices, a whole bunch of branches, if you will, all over the United States. So are NFL teams independently owned by their owner, or are they a franchised out by the National Football League? So I think we've got our first answer here, because that's really what was up for debate. How much ownership does an NFL owner have of an NFL team? And the owners at the owners meeting they Myles Garretted that crap and said, get that 60-yard field goal Tom Brady buying the Raiders crap out of my face. And the initial ruling is NFL franchises are property of the NFL and have to be sold at value. You cannot, as an individual owner, sell the franchise that you have for a discount to one of your buddies. So Mark Davis and Tom Brady may have been thwarted at this time. But if you think about it, Tom Brady is going to put in $175 million to buy 10% of the Raiders, which is valued at somewhere near $500 million. Let's see if I can find the exact number. I have it right here. I thought I had it right here. No. $525 million. That's what it is. So the difference between that, which I don't have off the top of my head, roughly $300 million, easy, $350 million. That basically is being gifted to Tom Brady by Mark Davis. Or is it being gifted to Tom Brady by the NFL? And if the Raiders can be sold, 10% of it can be sold for $175 million, does that mean that the value of the Raiders has depreciated off of the $6.6 billion that the Commanders were sold for? So the NFL has struck its hammer against the anvil and said, we are not doing this. We will be fixing the prices of our NFL franchises. And if you would like to buy an NFL franchise, you will pay for it full price. Caveat: the owners will meet again on December, I believe, 12th to have another discussion / vote on this. But Indianapolis Colts Day, Jim Irsay said, we're trying to work it through. The number just has to be reasonable for a purchase price for Tom. The only thing is, if reasonable value says that 10% should be $525 million, you can't pay $175 million. So we know where the Borg is going with this. This is why they're the Borg, right? The owners, as the NFL, all collectively own the NFL, and they don't collectively own, and they all collectively own each individual franchise. They just happen to be the general manager of that franchise or the particular branch manager that runs that particular site. Like Jim Irsay happens to run the Indianapolis Colts side of it. You know, Jimmy Haslam runs, or D. Haslam, or the Haslam Sports Group runs the Cleveland Browns. They set the price. The owners set the price for each individual franchise. Thus, I think it will be a cold day in hell before Tom Brady buys the Las Vegas Raiders for $175 million, 10% of the Las Vegas Raiders for $175 million. So, yeah, the Borg are going to Borg. All right, everybody, that wraps us up for today. Nice having you around. Good chatting about football. Keep up the good work, and may the Mud Dog defense come through in Seattle against those Seahawks. All right, everybody. Have a great one.
Thank you for listening to the What the Elf Was That podcast. Please like, subscribe, and tell all your friends to give a listen. You can follow host Joel Cade on Twitter at The Left Guard.